Have you ever felt like no matter what you do, it's entered into evidence against you? You defend yourself, you explain yourself, you grow, you change, and somehow the verdict was already decided. What if the problem was never your behavior, but the role you were assigned? Tonight, we're talking about the family court you never agreed to enter, where you were the prosecutor's target, judge's assumption, and jury's entertainment. The structure. In dysfunctional systems, there is often an unspoken courtroom. The prosecutor, the person who builds the narrative about you. The judge, the authority figure who decides credibility. The jury, extended family, church, community. The evidence, cherry-picked moments frozen in time that you seem to never be able to escape. The verdict, your identity. And here's the twist. The trial began before you knew you were even charged. How's that for due process rights, guys? The crime of differentiation. Often the crime isn't what you did. It's that you spoke up about something that other people did not want to talk about or hoped that maybe you didn't know. That you questioned inconsistencies. Because when you question inconsistencies, it almost seems as if you're blaming someone else other than yourself. You outgrew the role that you were supposed to perform. You were supposed to be the fixer, the golden child, the scapegoat. But for some reason, you felt like you didn't want to perform that role. And that's almost like blasphemy. You refused to carry shame that wasn't yours. Because if you are ashamed and you are embarrassed, you're not as bold. You're not as willing to stand up for yourself. You're going to be meek. You're going to be mild. You're going to be apologetic. All the things that some in your family think that you should always be. And you wouldn't stay small. You held your shoulders back. You showed confidence. You maintained eye contact. And you listened to what they had to say. You didn't shrink yourself. In rigid systems, growth feels like betrayal. Because guess what? Growth requires work. Growth requires courage. Growth requires self-confidence and continuing to stick with it day after day. Moving the needle a little bit at a time. And you've put the work in. You know what it's like and what you have to do. And so when one member evolves, the system panics. So it does what systems do. It stabilizes itself by stabilizing you. Because somewhere along the line, they realized that you were growing, you were evolving, you were asking questions, you were pointing out inconsistencies. And to them, that seems dangerous, or like you're growing too big for your britches, so to speak, as people would say. How evidence is manufactured. Notice how evidence works in these families. One mistake becomes a character trait. One reaction becomes instability. One boundary becomes cruelty. One disagreement becomes disrespect. There is no context, no cross-examination, no appeal. Just narrative repetition. And repetition feels like truth, especially if you hear repetition over and over and over again. And you hear about your crimes over and over and over again. That mistake you made, that clearly shows your character. Your reaction clearly shows that you are unstable. Your boundary, you're not there for your family. Your family has done so much for you, and what are you doing? And one disagreement becomes disrespect because you cannot get out of line to the expectations that have been set for you. Why you stayed. You stayed in the courtroom because you believed that fairness mattered. You believed if you explained it clearly enough that they would see who you are, what you're about, and what your values are, and that you really haven't changed. Yes, you've evolved in some ways, but that's an advantage. That's not a disadvantage. And that's not something to hold against someone because they've leveled up or they've grown or they see things differently. Evolving is part of life, and we all evolve. Well, not all of us. Most of us evolve. You believed growth would change the verdict. But here's the painful truth, maybe the most painful truth. You can't win a trial where the judge benefits from your conviction, where it gives them what they see as a superior high ground. The exit strategy. There are only 3 ways out. Number 1, you can accept the verdict. Number 2, you can keep appealing, which it likely will not do any good. Or 3, you can withdraw from the court entirely. And withdrawal isn't weakness. It's actually strength. Because you're saying your rules are outdated. Your rules are not going to confine me. Your system is a kangaroo court that I am no longer bowing down to. It's jurisdictional clarity. You are allowed to say, I do not consent to being tried by people who refuse to examine their own evidence. Because clearly there is bias there. And no court would allow a verdict against you to stand because it is clear that they only see what they want to see. Confirmation bias is what is going on here. If you felt like you're always on trial, I want you to hear this clearly and truthfully. Being assigned the scapegoat role does not make you defective. You are only that role in a small microcosm. People who are not related to you or who are not part of that system do not see you that way. They see you as the person that you present to be. They have an opinion of you outside of what the court or your family or those that you grew up with may have of you. And sometimes that's where family is not as fair as they should be. It often means you were the most psychologically differentiated person in the room, meaning you understood things that others did not understand. You were maybe more sensitive. You were maybe more thoughtful. You were maybe more independent and not as easily swayed. Those are traits that people who have fear and paranoia are afraid of, especially people who are wanting to control narratives, control people, control outcomes, and keep family systems in a secret kind of compartment so that not everyone knows our dirty laundry, right? And systems don't punish weakness. They punish deviation. Thank you for tuning in to Recovering Perfectionist Mama, Grace in Progress. It means a lot to me, and thank you very much. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.